Hi, welcome. We're so glad that you're with us this week. This is a happy half hour, and here is to you. I am Susan Schultz. I'm the Executive Director of the Museum of Broadcast Communication, and the museum, unfortunately, is not open right now, but it will be in the future. And here we go. This is how we begin the happy half hour with these beautiful chimes. They are a wonderful piece that I keep at home of the museum, and of course, I will return it when we all go back in there. But the museum is a wonderful place to visit, and since you cannot visit it, we have brought some of it to you online. In fact, we have a very timely online exhibit called The Great Debates, and you can find it at greatdebates.org. Here we are talking about the power and the influence of the broadcast industries on the presidential really campaigns and debates. So we have 100-year timeline here to really explain how radio, television, as well as digital online has impacted the presidential races. What we found is that, when you look at it, broadcast really disrupts everything as this technology evolves. And then when you talk about the presidential races, that's 4 years apart. So it's not as though candidates can pick up 4 years when technology has evolved and do the same thing. So we have articles about the real key disruptions that we see as things have evolved. And we also have 8 modules of curriculum that are free. We want teachers to use them. We continually update all the resources on this site. So, for example, if you were going to go to the social media module, you're going to find a brand new game that was introduced by the University of Cambridge in November to talk about misinformation, breaking Harmony Square. You get to actually see what it's like to be the minister of disinformation. This is a 10-minute game. It's actually a great game to play if you're a parent with your kids. Or if you're a teacher, it's a great game to play at school. And speaking of debates, we are really lucky and really thrilled to have two guests today, both people from Chicago Debates. Hello, welcome. It's so good.
Hello.
There is Dr. Toynette Gunn, who is the executive director. So nice to see you. Mm.
Thank you
And
for
then we
having us.
Great, great. It's so great to have you. And those of you who have been following the great debates, you know that Toinette was here to talk to us after one of the debates to really discuss how the debates were going and whether they were really debates according to curriculum debates. And with her today is Anthony Bolden, who is the program director for Chicago Debates. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you.
Mhm. So I want to get right to it, and I would like you, Dr. Gunn, to tell us a little bit about Chicago Debates because it's a very different debate. When we think of debates today, the touchstone we have currently in our head are the presidential and vice presidential debates. But this is not at all what you are teaching. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate, Susie. Chicago Debates, in partnership with Chicago Public Schools, we have been doing this for over 20 years, and we bring debate, the activity of competitive debate, to the Chicago Public School students. And debate itself, this activity is really bridging the opportunity gap that exists for Chicago Public School students. And we do that by partnering with them right in the schools, with the principals and the counselors, helping them to develop debate programs, and then working very closely with the teachers who then raise their hands and volunteer to coach students in the activity of debate. And so we help to do that. We facilitate a lot of the research that students are doing and helping them to kind of get a kickstart around the activity and what that involves and how to do it. And then we support those coaches all the way through. And we also facilitate 40 or more tournaments a year in which students come and participate in competition. And we've been doing that, as I said, for over 20 years in the Chicago Public School District. This year, we are really aiming to support about 1,700 students across 95 schools in the district. And Anthony is our director of programs who oversees all of that amazing work that our team does.
Well, so Anthony, when we think of, again, of debates, our current history, right, or our current events really show us that I'm coming in there with a point of view and I'm verbally beating you up. That is not the idea behind your program, correct?
Yeah, not at all. So we specifically have our students participate in what we call policy debate, which is the most rigorous but also prestigious form of debate, which requires two students to participate on a team, and they will compete, if you would, against another set of students. And each student is responsible, or each team is responsible for arguing both the for and against, or the negative and the affirmative. And they don't know before they step into a round at times which they will be arguing. But this gives our students the opportunity to be able to argue their positions from both sides, which we think is most important. But it also emphasizes the importance of listening to be able to craft a better response and argument to uh, your opponent so that you can win the round. It's really, really fun to watch, especially when you see little fifth and sixth graders super prepared, ready to debate against their peers, but also learning about subjects that, to be honest, they wouldn't really touch in school. For example, last year we had a topic of arm sales where they were talking about Ukrainian and Saudi Arabian arm sales. These are not things that your typical fifth, sixth, and seventh grader, probably not even in high school, would be discussing. But debate, broadens your horizons and allows you to learn content in areas that are just not normal for the modern day high school student.
What a great way to create a critical thinker, somebody who is fluid in being able to discuss and being able to move from different opinions or understand different opinions. I think that what I love about that is, the foundation of our curriculum has to do with news literacy and critical thinking, and I would imagine as well what you're talking about, Toinette, is students who have to be aware of what's going on in news and media.
That is correct. And I would say we, as a part of our curriculum, are really teaching students to research and use evidence to support their arguments. And so they are, as I said in the beginning, getting some help from us, but they do learn to be able to research their own arguments and dig a little bit deeper as they advance in the activity of debate. And so that does require some attention to what is happening in the world. It does, push them to understand what's a good source, a credible source, and what isn't, and understanding how important it is to pay attention to the facts and the evidence to be able to support your argument. And as Anthony mentioned, they are learning to do this from either side of the resolution. And so whether they're arguing for or against, they are learning to do both of those things and learning that as you mentioned, to become critical thinkers. But in order to do that, you really do have to listen, but you also have to understand your opposition's side of it and their points and what they are going to argue. And so as they prepare to take either side, they are doing that. They are learning to be able to have some empathy for one side or the other, because I'm researching and understanding what that side's position is. I may not agree with it, but again, they're learning to disagree with civility. They are learning to have that civil discourse that, again, we just don't see a lot today. And teaching that it is okay to disagree. There's facts, there's evidence, and you can have that on either side of the situation. But it's important that you're able to come and have those tough conversations. And really, debate really does push them to be able to know how to have those tough conversations and respectfully disagree or debate the other side of a position.
It's like, oh, be
Yeah,
still,
I would
my
love to. I would love to add on what you were saying there too, because I think what's also important is that we, especially in this, digital age or social media age, uh, the truth continues to march on, as they say. So uh, we've learned that more evidence, if you would, will be presented throughout the year. And with policy debate, the students are, doing a for and against or arguing a position on the affirmative or the negative for the entire year. However, that does not mean that with the different cases that they're arguing that they cannot introduce new evidence. What we do as an organization is we develop the core files that they'll use. So we'll try to pull together hundreds and hundreds of pages of research on the different cases that the students will argue. But as the year goes on, as we learn more in the news, and most of our topics are very relevant to what we are dealing with presently, we will update those core files so that the students can add new evidence to their arguments and keep things fresh, keep it relevant, so that if we need to, I don't know, maneuver, if you would, and take a slightly different approach because the evidence leads us that way, then we'll be able to do that.
So this is a real rigorous form, and I want to get into that in a minute. But I do want to ask, um, particularly in these last 4 years, when we have seen with this administration that there is not necessarily a propensity towards, and mind you, we're a 501c3, as are you, so we're not taking a political position, but we certainly can say that that polite discourse has not been the modus operandi. And so when you are sitting there dealing with students and teaching them that they have to be civil, how has that been when you're juxtaposed to your world leaders who are not doing it? Isn't that hard?
I would
I
say,
think.
yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Gunn.
Now, Anthony can speak more from the engagement and direct service with the students, but I would say absolutely that is very difficult for us to be attempting to teach one thing, but in society, in the media, we see something different. And so, what I would say is about debate itself, the community of debaters, there is such a strong level of respect that they have for one another. And that seems to negate what we see in the media, that seems to supersede what our leaders are doing in this particular activity. It is paramount that you are respectful, and it is just very center to the community and the activity. And so they don't seem to be as swayed by what is happening external. The activity itself and the culture and the community of the activity seems to prevail.
So I would think,
Yeah,
Anthony, that be a great, wouldn't it be a great juxtaposition to say, to show that them, I think for kids to be able to be acting in a way that is more superior and more courteous and more respectful than the adults is a game changer for them. Or
yeah, it's you're almost trying to prepare the next generation for what we probably would like our civil discourse to be. And obviously sometimes we get off track. I think what policy debate allows, or I guess emphasizes, is for students to listen, but also to make your argument based on the facts and not your personal opinions. And sometimes when you believe something so deeply, when someone disagrees with your beliefs, you take it personally. So trying to learn how to disconnect from my disagreements with your position and not my hate towards you is an important lesson that our students are learning naturally through this activity.
oh, that is
Yeah,
really, really vital.
it's a disagreement with the facts or attack
Hmm.
on the facts or the evidence, not the person.
That is crucial. That is great. Can we make sure that there's a program like that in Washington? Um, and so I want to get into, because I find it fascinating, the world of debate, and I think that people are not aware of how rich this is, how how the rules are, how there are contests. I mean, very often when we're thinking of sport, we're thinking of, football, soccer, tennis, baseball, whatever. But this is a sport too, right? This is can you talk a little bit about the whole structure and how big it is? Because this is a national sport, right?
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Anthony,
Yeah, for sure. There are different types of debate leagues. So, for example, Chicago Debates is specifically an urban debate league. We work with students in the inner city, but you have your national circuit. So, schools that are not necessarily UDLs participate nationally. There's college teams. We have a number of staff members who debated in college and now are full-time employees of Chicago Debates. But the history is rich. What usually takes place is students are preparing. So the affirmative will present two main constructives, and the negative will present two main constructives. And in between those first four speeches, there will be some cross-examination where the students will ask one another questions and really try to tear down the argument, if you would. And then after that, the students are given the opportunity to rebut what the affirmative or the negative has presented. You will see that a newer debater, especially in policy debate, will speak slowly and really try to make sure they read all of their evidence. But I guess the students who are much more
That's
what am I trying to say?
the
Experienced,
veteran.
if you would. Yeah, the veterans, the college students, they will speak a little bit faster. I think someone shared with me that our students are these really high skill level students are speaking about 300 words per minute. This is what we call spreading. So that, they're really getting the words out really fast, and you just have to keep up. And that's kind of that is kind of the competitive nature of it all, is to get all of your facts in while also trying to tear down your opponent's arguments. But it's extremely competitive. The culture amongst these debaters is one that they take pride in, and we just really appreciate being a part of it all.
So, Toyna, can you tell us a little bit about the scoring on this? Because you're getting points for this as you're going along, right?
They do. And, we are very fortunate to be able to, secure volunteers to assist judging these tournaments. There's no way we'd be able to do this without the help of the volunteers. And so there are always opportunities for individuals within the community to join us as a volunteer judge of a tournament. And they are trained on how to, do their best at listening to what the students are saying and what they should be listening for. And at the end of the day, what we are saying to our volunteers and who are judges is, you are trying to be persuaded. If at the end of the debate, the debater has not persuaded you to take their side of the argument, then they don't win. And so it's very much an activity of persuasion and being able to take the evidence, take all of the facts along with what side of it you're arguing, and make the most persuasive argument around why the judge should vote for your side. And there are also points connected to the scoring process where at the end of a tournament, we will have what's called speaker awards. And those students who get the highest speaker awards will also get some award at the end of the tournament.
Oh, that is just really wonderful. I loved too what you were talking about, that these skills help bridge the opportunity gap. And I would love it if one of you would talk a little bit more about that, because I think that's something people just don't understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm going to let you
I'll
do.
go ahead. Sorry.
We have a
I
little
was
bit
just gonna say, yeah, I know. I was just going to say that I think historically, when you think about why UDLs were created in the first place, it's because traditionally you don't find debate leagues in uh, urban districts, right? And that has changed with a lot of organizations similar to like NADO, the National Association for Urban Debate Leagues. But this is not a sport or a competitive activity that students ultimately always have access to. But because we
Right.
know the impact of this activity, individuals who helped start this organization made sure that it would be accessible to our students in Chicago. So just kind of wanted to start there. Dr. Gunn, you can definitely piggyback on anything that I was sharing there.
Yeah, and that's great connection to the history and kind of the why we were founded. And there are 22 urban debate leagues across the country,
Mm.
Chicago being the largest, providing policy debate. But speaking specifically to the skills and the access and opportunity that we started with, Susie, it really is when you think about preparing our future leaders. debate is really helping to do that. And so we speak about it bridging the opportunity gap, because it's, we know that students, based on specifically here in Chicago, where they live, what schools they attend, they just do not have access to certain things. The level of education, the quality of the education that they receive, and I'm referring to in classroom education, just does not compare fairly to their suburban, wealthier counterparts. And so when we think about an activity like debate and what it is able to do, it really does supplement what is happening in the classroom for students. And so to be able to say, here's an activity that we are able to offer that will help students to think more critically. It helps to improve their reading skills, their communication skills, their analytical skills, because they are having to take large amounts of information and data and synthesize that, but also be able to articulate that in a way that it supports an argument. And so they're really having to, we're pushing intellectual thought and reasoning. They learn to collaborate because they are working as teams. And I'm not a former debater, and so I often look for ways to break this down for the layperson like myself to say, how do you explain this to people, and the format and the structure? And policy debate, I always say, is very similar to what you would see in a court of law, but it's also similar to your typical college level research paper in almost a verbal way. And so when you think about those two things, a court of law, as Anthony said, you're going to have to introduce your evidence. You're going to have to, you're going to get cross-examined. There's an opportunity to rebut. But there's this intellectual exchange that happens to be able to support your arguments. And so when you think about all of those things that students are being charged with doing, how quickly they are being pushed to do that in a tournament or a round of debate, they are listening more than they are speaking. And when we look at all of those skills, Susie, and when we look at 21st century career skills that everyone is saying we will need, skills of effective leaders, these are all being cultivated through the activity of debate. And so it really does then not only provide that access and opportunity to help students strengthen their academic profile, their engagement in the classroom, but you think futuristic and ahead, and what it's doing to provide them access and opportunity to be prepared to do well in college, and then to step into careers and be able to be successful in their careers, but very much primed to step into roles of leadership, because these are all the skills that we know effective, good leaders need.
And so this is also, Anthony, something that is helping them engage in the democracy, right? Because if you're talking about policy, you are definitely engaged in the discussion of where we are headed and why we are headed that way and what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what we want to try to continue to encourage is active citizenship. And once a student recognizes through debate that their voice matters, and that they can use what they've learned to win a debate round, that encourages them to not only use it via this avenue through the activity, but to use it in real life, right? And you think about the change that our students can make in their own communities. I'll give you an example. We have an associate board member who was a part of Chicago debates. He debated on one of our inaugural programs, Morgan Park High School. Today he's a lawyer, and he fights for justice for underprivileged individuals right here in Illinois. That is, if you would, the trajectory that we're trying to shift. If you send our students to, we want them to recognize that it doesn't stop here. This experience is going to benefit you in college, and it's going to prepare you for your career. And if you can do this, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I believe our students know that and go on to do that.
Can I ask, are there tracks in school where there's actually scholarship money for debate in college?
I know,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah,
So
and
in other words,
I know of a
go
few
ahead.
scholarships through programs like NODO and stuff like that that give our students scholarships to go into college. Many of our students who are really great debaters get scholarships through the universities themselves to debate on their teams, or just because of the academic benefit of debate, and how they are able to use that in school and raising their GPAs. They go on to get great academic scholarships when they enter into college.
I would think that the skills involved here to be able to again look through the different parts of an argument on both sides. Um, eh, they are, in this formative time when you're a young person, when you're in your preteen and teenage years, that it actually helps organize your mind. Would that, Toinette, would that be something that yeah, I just think it's probably the gray matter actually gets directed, right?
No, you're spot on, Susie. It certainly does help them learn to organize thought, but also organize an argument, and then how to articulate that once you've kind of organized it all. And so when I shared just a moment ago that comparison to a research paper, when you think about a college level research paper, that is what they're being asked to do, is to be able to organize their thought in a way that they can convey the message clearly, but they can also be able to share with a professor their side of it, supported by the evidence. And that's what's key in policy debate, is that they are able to take that data and that evidence to support my opinion or my thought or my reaction to a particular argument. And that is a skill that, once you've learned it, it really does. What you hear from the alum of our program is that they have now been trained to think in this way. And this is why debaters land in all kinds of careers. And you will consistently hear them say how much they continue to use the things that they learned in debate, whether it's in, as a lawyer, whether it's as a journalist, whether it's as, someone who's holding a political position, entrepreneur. We have someone that works in the others that work in the nonprofit sector. They continue to use that way of thinking, and it is a huge asset and value for us in the workplace. And it's what we look for ourselves when we're hiring for people to join our team.
Oh, I mean, of course, any manager would want somebody who would be able to be fluid and thinking about all sides and try to really do a 360 on any issue. It's a great skill. We're coming to the end here. And I have to say that I could keep talking to you guys for quite a long time because I just love this topic. But have there been any challenges, Anthony, in the pandemic with the way the schools are set up? I mean, you're probably debating via Zoom, right? Is how hard is that for you all?
I mean, I think, to be honest, it was more hard. It was harder in thought than it was in action, if that makes sense. Um, I think as we thought about how we would pivot our program, obviously, just like in debate, you're trying to uh, react early, if you would, to what you think your challenges will be. But we've been able to successfully execute over 12 tournaments so far, all completely virtual, serving over 600 students so far this year. And our team, I credit them for being quick on their feet and really hard workers. Outside of the tedious work, I think everyone can attest to in preparing things online and sending out tons of links to students to participate in. The actual usability, if you would, of just kind of hopping on a Google Meets call and doing a debate is very convenient. We've been able to use volunteers from all over the nation, and we weren't able to do that before because individuals are stuck to coming to a static location. But now, because it's virtual, we can pull individuals from all over. So again, I want to leave, drop this plug for anybody who's listening, whether you're in California or Japan. If you want to debate, if you're in Japan, you probably will have to debate at nighttime. But if you want to, we will definitely find ways to get you plugged into this really, really great opportunity to impact students' lives.
And Toinette, before we leave, where should people go if they want to either volunteer or donate? We don't want to exclude that to help this work go along.
Absolutely. Thank you. Please visit our website, chicagodebates.org, and all of our giving information is there. All of our information around becoming a volunteer is there as well. And as Anthony said, we have tons of opportunity to engage you if you are interested in volunteering and judging at a tournament and supporting our students. But knowing that we can't do the amazing work that we do without the support of generous donations. And so please do consider supporting the work and impacting these deserving young people here in the city of Chicago.
Because we also think that we're going to get some pretty amazing broadcasters from your students as well. So please, please go out and support the work. Thank you, Dr. Gunn. Thank you, Mr. Bolden. We are so grateful to you for being here today and talking about the program as well as all of the work that you do day in and day out. Thank you so much for joining us here on Happy Half Hour. And please join my colleagues, Olivia and Aileen, on Friday, because at noon on Instagram, they're going to be talking in their show Real Drama about the supermarket sweeps and the reboot, Leslie Jones. So join them noon on Friday at Instagram. See you next week.